the timing just felt right, and sort of reached out to you and said, you know, would you work with me on something? I don't know exactly what it is that I want to do, but I know how it should feel. And we started working together.
I remember the life drawing. We should say that we've met through our mutual friend Guy,
Yes.
the most spectacular sculptor.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting thing, whether you work from life or not. Life drawing is something different. Life drawing sharpens the mind. So I set up the life drawing with Guy as a way of inviting people into my studio and working from the same model. And I absolutely adored your work ethic. And to be quite frank, you and Guy's drawing are the sort of drawing that I didn't think would happen anymore. It was absolutely spectacular. That's what introduced me to your work, which I find absolutely fascinating, Jamie. I think you are you're a spectacular painter. And the difficulty with portraiture is that it has these many different levels. You have to capture how the person looks. It has to be a good painting. But there seemed to me something about your portraiture which actually caught how the person was. And when you asked not only to do my portrait, which I was baffled by, but to come and do it in the studio, I didn't get it at all. But because I'd met you, seen your work ethic, loved your painting, some mad part of me said yes. And you stood in a studio. It wasn't like having a guest. It wasn't like having a visitor. You brought your work ethic to the studio. And I think that it's one of life's great treasures that artists can share, that understanding of space and light. And it was a really, really interesting experience, which I'm still enjoying.
Because I feel like we're quite similar, I knew how I would be if someone was asking my time. I don't know, there's something about taking an artist's time. It probably because I'm an artist, it feels more precious. So I knew that I just had to get on with it. I wanted to observe you as well. I didn't want to be a sort of an annoying presence in the studio. I didn't know how long it would take, so I just needed to fit in. You know, I thought that I had a clear idea in the beginning how I wanted to pursue things, and then, as always, you know, your first idea isn't necessarily your best one. You told me from the beginning that I was just to do my thing and you would accommodate me. And so I never really shared what I was doing.
That's the level of confidence I had in your painting. Amy, you talk about walking into a studio. You know, it's exactly the same visiting your studio. It's almost like how you painted my apron. My studio always looks like this behind me. It's round. And the evidence of my making is on my overall, always. I think it's in the room too. And when I come to your studio, I'm not entering an elegant white room. I'm entering deep thought. So when you stood in here, you became part of the thing that's happening in the studio. And a weird side shoot was that where I stood, which was really the only spot where there was room for your easel and there was enough light for you to see something, I kept seeing drawings that I was working on. So I would just drift off into looking at a drawing and almost forget that you were there.
The end painting, so the last one that I painted, something was bothering you the entire time that I was capturing that head. And at the end of it, at the end of that sitting, I think you picked up a saw or something and just hacked off an arm or something off one of the big sculptures. And you just took it was a big sigh of relief. Like, that's been bothering me the entire time.
I was quite careful not to look at what you were doing. I didn't want I wanted the experience of you coming into my studio and seeing what you saw. I didn't want to make a comment, I didn't want to steer you wrong, nothing. So when I finally stood in front of your portrait, it was the most extraordinary feeling because I felt seen. You didn't paint what I looked like, you painted what I am like. And it was so extraordinary to realise that I'd been seen. That is me. I stand in front of your painting of me and it just feels like truth. And I do get lost in space in the studio. And there's a point where women get to a certain age where they become slightly invisible. And that's an outside studio issue. But I felt seen by you in my real state. This is where I am me. And it was enough to be me in my overall. I don't think I even brushed my hair before you started painting. I think I was just me. And it was just the most fabulous feeling to have been seen. And I'm really quite shaken by your portrait.